What do you know the song? Martin Luther King March, big famous number.
Right, but like in.
Come on in, jump in here. You want to work over 169?
Nick, we're gonna practice this one, but they're in rainbow order.
Okay.
Aside from the 1x1 one that's not in here.
All right, 169 real quick.
Practice that.
So, are you familiar with that? Heard it before?
I've heard it before, but I don't know my part.
Okay, no problem. All right, so if you do it in third down.
Yeah.
Do this. So it's a,
Usher and greet too.
it's basically a third down.
They're not.
Can we put these away since Tim's not coming?
Just slide under your chair.
Any two lights we have are in the very first basket on the top shelf on the right hand side. But like most of them are run out.
You got a few more?
I'm probably gonna sing neon because I only spend a little time. I'm rusty.
And it's a spiritual piece, so feel free to harmonize it.
So volume-wise, are we electric instruments going to be too loud to hear?
I have no idea what that is.
That's what I feel like.
That's what I'm nervous about.
Y'all have not generally been too loud. I wouldn't hold that. They'll be all right.
Blackhearts have almost like a singer in concert.
All right, I'm gonna go ring the bell, get people in here.
Starting with
Pink, yeah. I don't have an order of service. Presley, stay in back.
Back in the 80s, she was opening for Loverboy. It was such a great concert. We have a picture of her.
Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 346, Come Sing a Song With Me. The words are on the monitors. Our opening words today are a responsive reading called No One is Outside the Circle of Love by Reverend Erica Hewitt and Reverend Susan Frederick Gray. And, it's up on the screens. And your part is going to be No One is Outside the Circle of Love. We know that hurt moves through the world, perpetrated by action, inaction, and indifference. Our values call us to live in the reality of the heartbreak of the world, remembering that no one is outside the circle of love. We who are Unitarian Universalist not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being, despite apparent brokenness. No one is outside the circle of love. We know that things break or break down. Promises, friendship, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very human institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. Life is messy. No one is outside the circle of love. With compassion as our guide, we seek the well-being of all people. We seek to dismantle systems of oppression that undermine our collective humanity. We believe that we're here to guide one another toward love. No one is outside the circle of love. No matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. No one is outside the circle of love. Good morning. My name is Helen Dingus. I am the office administrator at this congregation and your worship associate today. And I wore long sleeves in the summer, so clearly I need help.
Thank you, Helen. I'm Heather Norby. I'm the spiritual life director for this congregation, and I use the pronouns she and her. have a few announcements. Of course, our mission statement here at UUCL is love plus connection equals transformation. And since this is your community, we ask that you please be an active part of this transformation and this connection by joining us in the following activities and events. This Wednesday at 5 p.m. is the worship committee meeting. Everybody is welcome. We'll hold it here in the sanctuary. And then at 6:30 is dinner worship. And we will be talking about our October theme, which is the practice of deep listening. I will bring rice to dinner worship, and you can bring a topping to go with that rice. And we'll eat a delicious dinner together and have some deep conversation. After service today is our starting point class. This is for new people and old-timers alike. You're welcome to come get to know the new folks. We learn about each other. We learn about UUCL. We learn about Unitarian Universalism. This is probably a 5-session course, so it'll be happening. Today's the first session, and the next 4 sessions we have to plan out according to everybody's availability. And we'll do that today. So I'm wondering, did you buy your Raven Dinner Theater tickets yet? It's coming up. Vaisal raised his hand. Yes. Vaisal, how did you purchase them? Where did you? Yeah, you go to Facebook, you can go to the Red Tent Initiative, because they're our partners, on Facebook and click. How else can you get there?
There's a link in the newsletter.
There's a link in the newsletter. All right, there is a link in the newsletter to buy tickets to the event. Now, if you are volunteering, you don't have to buy a ticket. You can still donate, but you don't have to. So if you want to volunteer, please talk to me. If you don't, you just want to come have fun and enjoy mummies and vampires and beasts and witches, then please go buy a ticket. This is a fundraiser for us and for Red Tent Initiative. We're splitting the proceeds. So please, come join us. It will be fun. Let's see. Next month in October, I haven't chosen the Sunday yet. Sherry and I will get together on this, but we will be taking up a plate collection for the Social Justice Committee so that we can continue to do some good work out in the world, including participating in the UUA's Climate Justice Revival. Sorry. Let's see. Oh, also a link in the newsletter, there's a survey. I know there's one about a brick fundraiser, but there's also one about 10 a.m. programs, so please read your newsletter and fill that out. Music practice is every Saturday at 4 p.m. Come join us. We have lots of fun, as you can tell, and we'd love to see you there. And just so you know, I had a tough week. Everybody had a tough week, I think. But I also got hit by a car. So I'm just a little bit wobbly today. I'm okay. I went and got checked out. I'm here. I'm here, and I'm blessed to be with you all, so just want you to know. All right, Helen, I think we are ready to light our chalice. Thank you.
Just real quick before we do that, Heather didn't mention that when she got hit by a car, she was not in a car. She was a pedestrian. So she looks very, very well for having that happen. So let us create our sacred space by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, remembering that love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Jen, will you do us the honor of lighting our chalice? Thank you. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing and signing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
I would like to invite our young and young at heart up. Hi. It's great to see all of you.
Well, I have a little story today. It's about a person. But before I read my story, let me ask you, what church are we in? The Unitarian Universalists.
Congregation.
Okay. That's right. Well, I just want to explain a little something because, Unitarian Universalism, that's a very long name, isn't it? But that's because it was two separate denominations that came together in 1961. Each denomination existed in America since at least the 1700s and in Europe before that. But today, I'm just going to talk about the history of one of those denominations, the Universalists. We don't hear a whole heck of a lot about the Universalists, do we? We mostly hear about the Unitarians. So I want to talk about the Universalists because they're really an important part of this faith. They have a unique history with unique people. Here comes Chris to remind me of it.
That's okay. I wasn't planning on sitting, but thank you. And the Universalists, in their unique history, were spreading the good news, as we say. I wonder what the good news of Universalism is. Anybody? No, the lifelong you can't. Love. You are right on. Right on. Love. So let me tell you about an early American, well, he was actually from England, so an early Universalist who came over around this time of the year, which is why tomorrow is actually Universalist Day. Does that sound exciting? Okay. All right, cool. There once was a person named John Murray. He lived in England and worked as a minister there. The congregation to which he belonged took religion very seriously. They believed in life after death, but they thought that almost everyone was going to have a terrible, horrible time after they died. Just a very few people would get to live on comfortably forever. This belief was very important to John's congregation. They didn't like anyone challenging it. Can you imagine? What if that's what we believe? Does that sound sad? Yeah. Now, it happened that John Murray met first one person and then a whole bunch of people who disagreed with the idea so precious to his congregation. These new friends of John also believed in a life after death, but they thought that everyone would get to live together happily.
instead of a few people having fun and everyone else being miserable. Well, that sounds better, though. Everyone gets to live happily. After a while, John decided that this idea made more sense to him and seemed like the kinder and better way for the world to be. So he became a Universalist. But John's old congregation didn't like his ideas at all. Not only did they not want to hear about them, they told him that if he was going to have such ideas about everyone getting to be happy after they died, he would have to leave their church. A lot of other bad things happened in John's life after he was forced to leave his community. He lost his family, and he ended up in prison for not being able to pay money that he owed. When he left England for the British colonies in North America, this was before there was a country called the United States of America, he swore he would never preach or work as a minister again. At this time, all the ships that people used to travel, they didn't have airplanes, they had ships. All the ships that people used to travel were blown from place to place by the wind. As John's ship was getting near his destination in New York, it was blown away to New Jersey, and he had to stay there until the winds changed direction. John went ashore to find something to eat while his ship was stuck, and he met a man named Thomas Potter. Tom had been hoping for years to find someone who would preach in the little lonely church that he had built himself. Tom held the same unpopular idea about life after death that John did. He was also a Universalist. Tom asked John over and over again to preach in his little empty church. John had sworn never to preach again. Finally, Tom got John to promise that he would preach if the winds did not change in time for his ship to leave by Sunday. John hoped that he would be gone by then and wouldn't have to make good on his promise, but the winds did not change. And that Sunday, John Murray preached his first sermon in North America. Instead of abandoning his previous life as a minister, John went on from New Jersey to spread the idea of universalism all over the American Northeast. And so for that, we have not only John Murray to thank, we also owe our gratitude to Thomas Potter, who knew that there were people who needed John's message and worked so hard to convince him to share it with the world. And so now we have Unitarian Universalism and we have Universalist Day. Is that a good thing? So what are we celebrating on Universalist Day? About love. About love. No one is excluded from love, are they? Nobody. That's kind of amazing. That's an amazing message. That's a life-saving message. That's a world-saving message. All right. It's okay. There's no pictures in this story, so it wasn't like the most exciting story ever. All right. So you're going to go out to play, or to learn and to play. And you're going to center yourselves in love. Thank you. It's been a very hard week. Devastating for some as Hurricane Helene destroyed homes and lives. I'm going to take a moment to light our healing candle so that we can gather the strength and the hope that we need to heal these sorrows and keep working toward a better world.
join me in a moment of prayer or meditation or whatever suits you. Spirit of life, give us the strength and the wisdom we need to use our resources wisely. Guide us towards helping, supporting, repairing, and healing in the best ways we are able. Spirit of life, source of all there is, may we not lose hope, but continue to show reverence for the gift that is this beautiful world, and especially for the gifts that we can be for one another. Spirit of life, be with us as we care for Mother Earth, honoring the sacredness of all life, this interdependent web to which we are deeply connected. Our ritual of the sharing of joys, concerns, and sorrows embodies the belief that there is power in being together and in holding one another in the significant, the precious, the hard, and the joyful moments of our lives. In our Joys and Sorrows book, you are able to write any significant joy or sorrow occurring in your life that you would like for the congregation to know. It sits on the table at the entrance of the sanctuary before the service, and I read from it before we take the time to come up and place pebbles in the bowl of water. We have a joy from Dorothy. Next Saturday from 8 to noon, we will be gathering to work on the buildings and grounds. Please come together to beautify our church home. Thank you, Dorothy. This is always a joy. I know for Ken and Dorothy and Crystal, who do so much work, and they love having people come work with them, so please join them on Saturday. I received a joy and sorrow. It's kind of both and that's okay right now. It's okay to be grateful and it's okay to grieve. This is from Lily, who said she was going to join us online today. She says, I'm grateful today that we have made it through Hurricane Helene without so much as a branch down in our yard, but my heart is heavy thinking about my family and friends north of us. My Nana's home in Cedar Key has been all but destroyed, and she's one of the luckier ones on the island. Please keep Cedar Key in your thoughts. It is going to be a very long road to recovery. Yes, and I know Lily and her family were there yesterday helping to clean up. I have a sorrow to share, and it's the reason a few of us are teary-eyed today. A former member and beloved friend, Glenda Littlehale, passed away yesterday. And she's going to be dearly missed. So we'll just take a few moments for that. I should say I definitely need a few moments for that. What a week. And Joshua and Petra also. Yes. I know Joshua isn't feeling well, so they're not here, so they asked us to put stones in for them. So I'll invite you all to come forward and place a colored stone or stones representing your joys, concerns, and sorrows into the water. Each stone that we drop into the water represents a different thing that we may need in the midst of this moment. You may take whichever stones feel right to you, drop it in the water, connect with others, and feel the power of being together in this community. You are welcome to come forward. Judy Powell is on Zoom, and Jasmine on Zoom. Good morning, everybody on Zoom and online. Thank you for joining us. And I just want to say that although the grief is heavy and the struggle is hard this week, it's a blessing to have one another. And it's okay for us to take quiet moments and to move on with a little bit of hope and a little bit of joy and lots of hugs. So I look forward to hugging some of you after the service.
Here we gather, tucked back in this friendly neighborhood between the beautiful tall pines. We are a community of people who have arrived from many different paths, yet we seek a common goal: to bring more love to a hurting but beautiful world. As Unitarian Universalists, we aspire to reach this goal through our shared values, one of which is the value of pluralism. Pluralism is about celebrating that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We endeavor to build a pluralistic community in which we covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning, embracing our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. But this community can only be built with the time, talent, and treasure of each one of us. Our ushers will now pass the plate so that we may live into our value of pluralism.
Thank you to all of you. So let us take a moment to center and contemplate that which we are exploring this month, the practice of invitation. To practice invitation is to live with love at our center, inviting in all that we already love, all that we endeavor to love, and all that is difficult to love. Love is, in fact, the promise of our Universalist theology. Love is the legacy that we've inherited from our Christian Universalist ancestors who read the Bible for themselves and said, wait a minute, the message is not condemnation. The message is love and salvation. The message is that everyone is invited to heaven. Can you think of a time when love redeemed and saved you? A time when love called you back from despair? As modern-day Unitarian Universalists, we know that to be a truly inviting people means to embrace differences, to empathize with the struggles of others, to listen without judgment, to support one another on our different paths toward the sacred, to forgive one another and create a new way forward, and to continue to hold love at the center no matter how hard it is. That is how we create heaven on earth. That is invitation. That is universalism. Tomorrow, September 30th, is officially Universalist Day, a day that celebrates a theology which has at its center an all-embracing divine love, a love that says we are all worthy of respect, redemption, forgiveness, and salvific grace. a love that proclaims us all as sacred beings. What could be more worthy of celebrating than this? A celebration to which everyone is invited. Wait, everyone? Everyone. Let's have a world celebration, like the kind I know I used to sing about to Madonna, Kool and the Gang, in the 80s pop songs, you know, with that dreamy, if not naive, aspiration of us all getting together. Anyone remember those songs? I think they had them in the 60s and 70s too. Yeah. Do they still write songs like that? No, okay. We were hopeful. I love those songs. I think we needed those songs. But it all sounds kind of hard, actually, because quite frankly, there's just some humans that I do not want to party with. So what do we do with our anger, our moral outrage towards those that do so much harm to us personally or out in this world? How does our universalist theology help us navigate through the tangles of love your neighbor, but do not tolerate hatred? Can't we celebrate universalist theology, but just not invite those that don't agree with us to our all-inclusive party? I mean, we can still love them, or at least honor their inherent worthiness as a human being, just let's not have them in the room and give them access to the people they desire to harm. Maybe, though, if we do invite them, and they actually experience real connection and real love, it might be possible to teach people a better way of living with each other. We have to remain hopeful. These are big, complicated questions, and I'm not even sure there's an answer. But I was reminded when I came across this Instagram video the other day by a teacher who calls herself Mrs. Frazzled, that I did indeed learn some useful skills as a kindergarten teacher myself. As teachers, we are called to love and respect every kiddo in our classrooms, no matter how difficult they may be. But sometimes, even quite often, you have to draw the line and insist on respectful behavior if you are to create a classroom culture in which all students feel safe.
Oh no, catch a bubble, Uncle Norm. I think you said an inside thought out loud. Is him wearing nail polish a big problem or a little problem? Oh no, does it hurt your body or your heart? Oh my goodness, is he putting the nail polish on your hand? Is he saying, I have nail polish and you don't? Okay, so it does not hurt your body or your heart. It sounds like a little problem, friend. Oh, hold your horses. No, if you cannot be kind, you are going to play by yourself. Got it? No, because we came here to spend time with you, and you have been told 3 times to use kind words. Do you want to practice? Okay, because I'm not going to let your unkindness hurt others. That is not okay with me. Why don't you take a moment in the calm down corner then, okay? I put a Miller High Life and pictures of motorcycles in there for you to color. Okay.
So that's what you do with the uncle who doesn't like to see a man wearing nail polish. Can we teach others to be more inviting by being more inviting ourselves? Can we spread the good news of universalism that everyone is saved by drawing lines that stop harm but don't stop love? These are difficult questions with no easy answers, although Adam's over there answering them easily. But remember, he is a lifelong universalist, goodness. Remember, a question is a pursuit, an invitation to envision and explore a series of possibilities, to struggle and empathize and doubt and believe. I do believe there are a series of possibilities from which we can start with our anger and moral outrage, because we are allowed to and should be angry and outraged at the atrocities happening in this world. But I believe we need to start with asking ourselves, is what I am about to say or do centered in love and the belief that every being is sacred? Or is what I am about to say or do simply mirroring the hatred that continues to divide us? Is that how a universalist behaves? Should I, as a universalist, behave like those that are not universalists? How do I turn this around, becoming a good example, not tolerating harmful behavior, but not perpetuating it either? How do I see the sacredness in the other? Notice that Mrs. Frazzled sent her uncle to the corner with things he loves, a beer and some motorcycle coloring pages. It's humor, it's a little snarky, and I don't necessarily recommend being condescending in real life, but you get the point. We can draw the line while still respecting the sacred being in front of us. Let us practice invitation in the most universalist way possible, but let us remember that it is very hard work. We are not perfect, and it will take us one step at a time to get there as we explore the possibilities and struggle with and doubt the answers. And so I ask you now to help us sing this into being with this hymn called One by One. One by one, we will get there. All right, are we ready, musicians? We have the words. Yeah, we can teach it first. Something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. All right. We are opening our hearts. One by one, we are opening our minds. One by one, we're remembering to be kind. One by one, we're remembering to be kind. One by one, we are opening our hearts. One by one, we are opening our minds. One by one, we're remembering God's love. One by one, we're remembering to be nice. September 30th was chosen as Universalist Day because it is the day that John Murray, whose story I read earlier, landed on the New Jersey shore and helped to spread Universalism. The history of how Universalism spread and came to be a denomination in this country is, as history always tends to be, complex. It includes many stories, not just that of the Englishman who came to America spreading some good news theology. And of course, as we know about theologies, there are many strands of belief within it. So we begin with John Murray, sort of. The thing is, when John Murray arrived here in 1770, one of the reasons he was able to preach a theology of universal salvation was because small congregations in which that sort of theology was accepted already existed. Many of these congregations were Baptist. They existed in the hill country towns of New England. Not having the financial resources, they were not able to pay for a minister, and they were left to wrestle with biblical scriptures on their own. And what they found and how they interpreted it was a far cry from the Calvinist doctrines of predestination. They found in the scriptures a loving God and universal salvation. They began to teach it and preach it, and John Murray found people to which he could belong. What developed during this early period of American Universalist history were two kinds of Universalist theology: that of the ultra-Universalists and the Universalist restorationists. In the early 19th century, Hosea Ballou was the leading Universalist theologian. I just want to read you a little bit from this history book because it has a fun little story in it about Hosea Ballou. Take my glasses off. Ballou once traveled to a small town to preach. Although his host had embraced universalism, his hostess remained skeptical of the new ideas. She greeted Baloo in her kitchen while cleaning for the Sabbath. She asked, "Do you really believe that all men will be saved just as they are?" When he said that he did, she just shook her head. One wonders if she perhaps felt that her husband's character might need some further improvement. "What is that in your hand, dear woman?" Baloo asked her. "Why, my mop," she replied. "Are you going to mop the floor just as it is?" "Well, of course, I mop it to clean it." "Ah," Baloo said, "you do not require it to be made clean before you will consent to mop it up." Likewise, God saves souls to purify them. That's what salvation is for. God does not require men to be pure in order that he may save them. While the Unitarians in this era began to preach salvation by character rather than by faith or works, something we talk about when I talk about Unitarian history, Universalists eventually formulated their position as salvation for all irrespective of character. The phrase comes from Hosea Ballou, who held to ultra-universalism. Sin is punished in this life only. But other Universalist ministers disagreed with Ballou, naturally. Like John Murray, they believed in the eventual restoration of all souls to God, but only after a period of just retribution and spiritual penance, kind of like purgatory. So that's the Universalist restorationists. And they were quite horrified by Ballou's ultra-universalism, and the ensuing conflict became bitter almost as soon as Ballou came to Boston. There are lots of juicy and interesting details about how this all played out. But what I find really interesting is that for a while, and because of the influence of spiritualism in the late 19th century, which as spiritualism was and still is a part of Universalist theology, Universalist restorationism won the debate. As John Buehrens, the author of this book, explains, the assertion of messages from restless spirits suggested that perhaps the restorationists had been right. After death, perhaps still more spiritual work goes on, beyond just death and glory. And so Universalists backed away from Hosea Ballou, including his own nephew, Hosea Ballou II. Hosea Ballou II also advocated for two more issues, which Father Ballou opposed: a seminary education, and most importantly, direct church involvement in social issues. In other words, creating that heaven here on earth. Hosea Ballou supported the Universalist General Reform Association, which set a lofty 40 goals that sought to address, first and foremost, slavery and women's rights. Next was anti-war, non-resistance, and American Indian affairs, social institutions and habits such as temperance and education. Additionally, these Universalists opposed the death penalty and advocated prison reform and rehabilitation. These are still issues that we work on today. A Universalist theology has long called to those who believe not just to wait until one dies to find heaven, but to live like the image of the God that they believed they were created in, and to create heaven here on earth, not through condemnation, but through grace and salvation. A Baptist preacher once said to Hosea Ballou, "Brother Ballou, if I were a Universalist and feared not the fires of hell, I could hit you over the head, steal your horse, ride away, and I'd still go to heaven." Hosea looked over at him and said quietly, "If you were a Universalist, the idea would never occur to you." In our hymnal, hymn number 132, Bright Those Jewels, we can hear the echoes of these early Universalists. The words were written by Hosea Ballou II. You might notice that while he points out the beauty of nature and is grateful for it, he places human compassion, mercy, and grace as a higher beauty, one that can actually create the heaven on earth we dream about. Let us sing hymn number 132, Bright Those Jewels. Universalism spread throughout the country during the 19th and early 20th centuries by evangelical preachers like the Belews, later by a man named Quillen Shin, who traveled by horse or even by foot and started 40 Universalist churches, and also by a man named F.B. Bishop, who came to Florida in 1923 on what he called his Florida Crusade. Remember, they come from the Baptist tradition, so they were Universalist evangelicals. He declared that the people here in Florida needed an evangelical movement because many Universalists are going into Florida to live, and so many are spending the winter months there. Now, there were a few Universalist churches already in Florida: Tarpon Springs, Jacksonville, St. Pete, and Miami. But Reverend Bishop saw the opportunity for more, and he found Lakeland to be one of the most desirable places in the state. Bishop described his week in Lakeland as a revelation and an inspiration. He found the people were more than cordial, and he wrote about the wonderful orange groves hanging heavy with fruit, the fragrant blossoms, and the bathing beaches and the golf links that the area offered. This is the 1920s, remember? Bishop recruited a preacher from Massachusetts and a singer from Tennessee to assist him in presenting a series of sermons to those interested in starting a Universalist church here in Lakeland. Bishop proclaimed his trip a success. He reported that a new Universalist society was started in Lakeland with Mr. F.B. Langley as its president, Mrs. Bertha H. Stites, remember that name, as vice president, and Mrs. Flora B. Corning as secretary-treasurer. But, unfortunately, the Lakeland Universalist Society Bishop's team and vision did not get off the ground in 1923. What happened? You might know if you read my thesis, but if not, because you probably didn't, this is a story I love to tell. It's a story that has been hidden in the archives for almost 100 years, and it's a story that we here in this congregation need to know when celebrating Universalist Day. It's a story of missed opportunities, a story of Universalist men who hadn't quite realized that it would take including everyone, even women, to build their church here in Lakeland. And most of all, it is a story of two Universalist women whose legacy of love still surrounds us, a legacy that we, this congregation, are called to carry into the future. It is a story that bridges the practice of invitation with next month's theme, the practice of deep listening. And so it is a story that I will tell you next week, because we're out of time. And I wrote an 80-page thesis on it, so, there's a little bit of information there. I really do love the story of Bertha Stites and Flora Gentry. Imagine how excited I was when I went to Chicago and I was digging through the archives and I found these letters from the 1920s that these women were writing to the associations to set up a Universalist church. I was mystified because I knew nothing about it. We didn't know we had Universalist history here. And it's fascinating, I think, and I love it, so I will tell it next week. Because after all, shouldn't we be celebrating the all-embracing love of Universalism every day? Yes. So how do we embrace Universalist theology today? Love is the promise of our Universalist theology. Love is the legacy that we've inherited from our Christian Universalist ancestors who read the Bible for themselves and said, the message is not condemnation, it's love and salvation. The message is that everyone is invited to heaven. No one is outside the circle of love. Just as our Universalist ancestors, we are not perfect, and we are still learning how to put love at our center so that we may live our Unitarian Universalist values. So I will circle back to where we started this month with the practice of invitation. We started with ourselves. We talked about being inviting to our authentic selves. Quillen Shin, that Universalist evangelistic preacher who walked around the country starting Universalist churches, said, "There is no hell for any of us to fear outside of ourselves." What does this mean? It means what happens when we do condemn either ourselves or others. What sort of hell builds up inside of us? And so that's why we endeavor to practice sort of heaven we can build instead. But let us remember to take it one step at a time to get there. It's hard, but we can explore the possibilities together. We can struggle together. We can doubt together, but we'll get there together. Thank you to all of you. And again, thank you for your grace after this very hard week. Helen has some closing words for us. Maybe.
I don't think so.
Okay. It's reading number 704 in our gray hymnal. I can do it. In our hymnal, you will see that these words are attributed to John Murray, but that's actually inaccurate. They are the words of Universalist professor of preaching Alfred Storer Cole, who thought, oh, that's probably what John Murray was thinking. He wrote, "Go out into the highways and byways, give the people something of your new vision. You may possess a small light, but uncover it. Let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and minds of all people. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. Preach the kindness and everlasting love of God." Let us sing together our closing hymn, number 169, "We Shall Overcome."
We shall
as Heather extinguishes our chalice, please recite our chalice extinguishing words with me. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world.